Hey gang, it's your buddy Platte back with another Spirit Series video. Today we're going to talk about corn whiskey. What is corn whiskey? Corn whiskey is whiskey produced that has at least 80% corn in the mash. This is different than rye whiskey, wheat whiskey, even bourbon whiskey, where the percentage has to be 51% of that dominant grain. Can be distilled at no higher than 160 proof. Uses a traditional mash process. We'll kind of get into that later, why that is, or why that needs to be noted. Can be aged, but doesn't have to be. If aged, it goes into either an uncharred barrel or a used charred oak barrel. So it does not go in a new oak barrel. Barreled at, if it goes in a barrel, it goes in at under 125 proof. If it's aged 2 years, it's straight corn whiskey. If it's aged 4 years and 100 proof, it is bottle and bond corn whiskey. Now, some of you out there may hear some of those points and think, well, wait a minute, that sounds kind of familiar. Well, it's 80% corn, which means it could be, the other 20% could be other things like rye and barley or wheat. Not being distilled over 160 proof, not going in barrel over 125 proof, aged for 2 years it's straight, it sounds a little bit like bourbon. In a lot of ways it is, because they're both corn dominated. Remember, bourbon has to be at least 81% corn, but a lot of bourbons in their mash are in the high 70s, close to 80. So what's the difference? Well, the big difference between the two is that the whiskey, the aging part. Again, corn whiskey does not have to be aged at all. Bourbon can conceptually go in the barrel and get dumped out the next day, and that's aging, but you just don't see that in practice. Where corn whiskeys, there are plenty of corn whiskeys that are unaged. Also, too, remember the note about corn whiskey going into either an uncharred barrel or a used charred barrel. Bourbon gets that special treatment of getting that new, fresh, charred barrel. And that's the way the whiskey interacts with that new, fresh, charred barrel is a lot different than the way the corn would interact. So that's really the big difference between the bourbon and corn whiskey. Now, a lot of people will say, especially looking at this container, well, what's the difference between corn whiskey and moonshine? I thought, moonshine is made with corn. Remember, corn whiskey is an actual legal definition. Moonshine was for illegal booze. It was kind of a catch-all term for booze. So there's really, or illegal booze, I meant, legally distilled booze. So there's really not a hard definition for moonshine. A lot of moonshine was basically corn whiskey back in the day, but one of the ways they would make some of that corn or moonshine was they would take cornmeal and then add some sugar and then ferment that. They weren't really getting any fermentables from the corn, but they were getting corn flavoring. I did a corn mash series actually, but I did a video where I did that experiment, and I'll leave the link up here. So that one, technically corn whiskey, and that's why it's noted for real corn whiskey, you have to do a traditional mash. Today, a lot of what you see as moonshine on shelves is a company's white whiskey, or their whiskey off the still, but they haven't put in the barrel yet. And if you're going to age something, if you're going to make a straight whiskey or a 4-year, that takes time. It takes where that moonshine, if you call it moonshine, well, we sell it right here today. So you'll see moonshine on the shelves or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's corn whiskey. It could be more of just an unaged white whiskey. They'll refer to that as White Dog too. You might see that label. So that's like I said, where it's different than corn whiskey. The particular corn whiskey we're going to try today is Platte with an E. No E here. Platte Valley Corn, 100% straight corn whiskey, so the term straight tells us it's been aged at least 2 years. And since it's obviously 100%, we don't have to worry about rye or barley being in there. Let's give this a try. Real quick, this is from McCormick's Distilling. If you don't know McCormick's probably is best known for their line of well spirits. When I first started bartending, McCormick's was the line we had on the rail. They have a vodka, a gin, a rum, a whiskey. You know, they just do a line of well products. So let's give this a try. Alrighty. Well, it's light straw color. There's not much to it. Ooh. Get a little heat on the nose, even though it's only 80 proof. Let's give her a try. Woo! A little heat to it, but a lot of sweet. Pretty simple stuff, yeah. Just a hint of whatever wood that was in, but just a lot of good corn sweetness and a little kick to the gut, you know. Woo! Yeah, that could lead to a fun night. Well, I hope you liked this video. And if you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.